Well, Alfie Stirling is the head of economics at the New Economics Foundation. Alfie, could you talk firstly about the implications economically on the UK of UBI?
Well, I think actually you should really start with the economic implications of not bringing it in, because almost we're comparing two scenarios here. What would it be? What does the world look like where we don't bring in this kind of reform, and what happens if we do? And if we don't, we are likely to see. We could see what is clearly one of the worst public health crises that this country has seen in living memory turn into what could be one of the worst poverty crises. So in 2008, unemployment peaked after 3 years at about 2.5 million. At the moment, the current prediction for unemployment in this crisis are up to 7 million and at 3.5 million at conservative estimates. So the scale of what we're seeing right now is entirely unprecedented. And going back to your question, so the economic impact, it's not only the case that those 3.5 million people, at least, will end up living in serious dire straits if they're forced to rely on our current social security system, universal credit, which is far too weak and ungenerous. But the economic recovery itself will be much, much slower, because all of those 3.5 million people will have less income to spend in the economy, less income to get the economy moving again once social distancing lifts. So it's actually 4 economic reasons that this safety net needs to be strengthened.
The New Economics Foundation, where you're head of economics, is proposing an MIG, or minimum income guarantee. Just talk about the differences between that and UBI.
So I think the core kind of tenets are basically the same, and that is that everyone who needs cash in this moment in time should be getting it at the level that's needed to be sufficient to live on comfortably, and to do so non-conditionally. So people obviously clearly can't be kind of jumping through hoops right now to get cash. The key difference comes around basically the design. So our minimum income guarantee takes the world as it is now and says, well, we've got a job retention scheme introduced. That's a program the government brought in to protect jobs and subsidise and underwrite salaries. And that's a good program, and we don't want to be replacing that or starting over. So the minimum income guarantee sits alongside it and says basically anyone who falls through the gaps, who falls through the cracks in these current schemes, so that includes people that lost their job before the scheme came in, includes people whose hours might be cut because they're not eligible to have their pay protected by government. These people will be protected and picked up by the minimum income guarantee, and they could apply for the scheme, and they'd be eligible to £221 a week, non-conditionally, as a minimum floor to keep their living standards at that minimum level.
In order to give these furlough payments to small businesses, employers, in the way that Rishi Sunak has, presumably he's just asking the bank to print more money. What would need to happen economically in terms of balancing the books to whatever extent they could in order to bring in a UBE, as you suggest?
So, I mean, at the moment, there are not significant constraints on government borrowing. So government is borrowing at the moment. It's not printing money quite yet. It's borrowing money on the markets to fund all these different schemes. Now, the job retention scheme is likely to cost about 40 to 50 billion pounds, assuming that the lockdown lasts about 3 months. The self-employed income protection scheme is about 10 billion pounds, assuming a similar period. The minimum income guarantee that we've proposed and modelled would be between about 10 and 20 billion pounds. It's in the same kind of order of magnitude, same sort of size as these other schemes. So that would be paid for from borrowing. But right now, there are 2 reasons why that is economically common sense. One is that the cost of borrowing for government is lower even than the rate of inflation. So you effectively gain money from borrowing. You actually in the long run, you don't have to pay back as much as you borrowed in real terms. And secondly, it's likely those interest rates are likely to stay very low because lenders, so big pension funds, these big institutions that the government borrows from, they are at the moment desperate to find safe places to put their money because they're worried about which companies in the economy might struggle, whereas they know government won't struggle. And so government right now has a lot of power to leverage that borrowing and to use it to keep the economy healthy.
Does the existing system of universal credit, with which I know many people do and are falling through the slats, does it have any merit to it whatsoever, or is it simply unfit for purpose in your view?
No, there are strengths to the universal credit system. The primary constraint is that they've collapsed multiple benefits into a single payment, and that does make the system more efficient, work more quickly. The fact that they have IT systems helps to some degree, because it means payments can be processed reasonably quickly. But of course, it does also mean that people that aren't good at navigating computer systems will struggle to claim universal credit. But the really big problem with universal credit is that it is simply not enough money. So if you're earning about, say average salary in the UK, £28,000 a year, then you get about 400 to 500 quid a week after tax. If you lose your job and move on to universal credit, you're getting £93 a week now, and that protection, that £93 a week, is one of the weakest in any advanced economy globally. The UK is about third among 30-odd advanced economies, third worst, I should say, amongst 34 advanced economies in how generous the social security system is. So the problem is that it simply doesn't protect people from poverty. The payments are too low.
And Alfie, 110 MPs and peers from opposition parties have now signed this joint statement calling on the Chancellor to introduce universal basic income. Is there any likelihood of this going to happen?
So I think there is actually a lot of momentum building now between significant reform of the social security system. Government put £7 billion into universal credit at the outset of this crisis, but over the course of the last 10 years, they've taken £34 billion out. So it's becoming increasingly clear that they have not done enough, and they're going to have to do more to deal with this unprecedented challenge. And I think over the coming weeks, as we see, really tragic scenes of, food bank use going up, claimant counts for universal credit going up, we will see momentum and pressure build. I mean, we're already seeing organisations that are not, they're not the type of organisations that intervene politically on a regular basis or do so lightly, like Citizens Advice, which is primarily a service to help people navigate the government welfare system. They're calling for something very similar to what we're calling for, which is this, a minimum payment, which is enough to live on, around £200 a week. So my hope is that that pressure will build, and that government will see that it has to act.